Welcome to the fifth and final part of our lecture on the scientific method. In this very short final chapter, we will discuss an extra part of the scientific method that is relatively new and that it's relatively specific to academic research, and it concerns tenure as part of the scientific method. So I don't know if you know what tenure means, but tenure means that you work yourself up from a bachelor student to a master's student, as in this scheme, to a PhD student and a postdoc, and hopefully one day you'll get a fixed position offered to you in terms of a tenure track as an assistant professor. You go through these 5 years of tenure track where they uh, evaluate you on your teaching duties and your research performance. And if you do well, you get a tenure position, meaning a fixed position in a university. And from there on, you can like promote to associate professor and eventually full professor and have a career. So tenure is actually a part in the scientific academic career that highlights you transiting from somebody working as a researcher on a temporary contract to a full uh, tenured position at a faculty. So it's really a big hallmark in an academic career, and like getting there and also like obtaining tenure is something that is very stressful. And when you look at the academic ladder and you start as a bachelor student, you gain knowledge at every step. This doesn't mean that a PhD student cannot obtain knowledge that a full professor doesn't already have, because that's the whole concept of science. Full professors trying to get money in for PhD students to do research to get more knowledge. But what you will see is that, like at each level, you become a more competent researcher, more experienced researcher, and gain more knowledge. The way you do that is obviously by gaining experience through teaching and gaining experience through research, but also by what we call continued professional development. Like we said before, science is a field, and what you want to do in this field as a professional is just not only get experience, but also stay on point and participate in conferences, in meetings, workshops, discuss with colleagues, and gain new insights on new scientific developments that you can sneak into your research and then have your research changing a little bit. And this is also a form of human interference where, because you're a professional and you want to learn from other people and you want to improve yourself as a professional, also your research will evolve with it. Now, this holds true not only for people working in academia, but this holds true also for people working in the industry. For instance, if you look at this graph, you'll see that many people start a PhD, but only a very small percentage of those people will actually end up with a tenure position in academia. But also, another career path through the industry, through sales, will influence the way you do your job. Obviously, if you get into a company, the difference in approach will be influencing the way you do your research, and that's what I mean. Like when we think about the tenure track and the career path in university, we see that we will do research in a different manner as we gain more experience, but also that it depends on where you will end up. Will you stay in academia? You will do research in a certain way. You will get funding a certain way, and this will influence the way you do research. If you end up in a company, obviously your approach will be a little bit more different. The funding will be different, and therefore also the way you do research will be different. You will have different safety rules, different patents, different non-disclosure agreements. So this will also influence, despite you having the same training, the same level of experience, this will influence the way you do your research. And this career building path that influences the way you do science is also part of the scientific method, specifically in the very experiments you do, but also in a broader sense in the scientific method as the way you do things throughout your entire career. So this is how career and ambition can also influence the outcome of you, how you do science. This was our lecture on the scientific method. I hope you learned a little bit more about how scientists do science on an everyday basis, what role experimentation plays in that, and why that is important for scientists, engineers, but also business administrators, and how that leads our society to advancing in knowledge generation and knowledge retention, and how we can advance society technologically, sociologically, but also economically. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, you can always email me, and I'll see you in class.